Greetings, Stellarisians. This is a big patch, and there's a lot to talk about. I'm not going to cover everything, there's a lot of changes. I'm just going to talk about what sticks out to me as the consequences for meta play. Let's dive right in. Leaders have a lot of changes, very good ones in my opinion. For instance, leaders that start at a higher level than normal won't start with a random pre-selected trait anymore, and instead you get to actually choose what they get. No more being forced to take level 4 admirals with only combat-oriented veteran traits. And speaking of level 4 admirals, I mean commanders, the Vaults of Knowledge plus Distinguished Admiralty strategy I was so fond of might well be dead now, because they adjusted the formula for leader cost to scale quadratically with level instead of exponentially. Just look how expensive these level 4 commanders are. This is untenable for the early game and changes how you might approach a build like this. By far my favourite leader change this patch is the addition of the Minister of State position for Bio-Empires. This goes a long way to closing the disparity with Gestalts, who start with a 5-leader council, which really buffs their agenda speed. The position itself is mediocre, but you can actually reselect the default positions now. That does come with a downside, but the downside for losing your Minister of State is completely negligible. Who cares about diplomatic weight? I definitely recommend you keep your Head of Research and Minister of Defense positions, but this one can go. There have been a large amount of changes to leader traits. Resource production traits are completely gone, which is a fantastic change, and the meta will shift back towards a more ordinary game of Stellaris. In its place, there are some very interesting new traits. There are too many to go into. I recommend you play around and check them out yourself. In terms of the vassal spam meta, the 3.9.3 changes to require 50 trust still hold. Previously, you could use the pacifist agenda We Come in Peace to instantly get 75 trust with all meta empires. This has been nerfed to 25, ending the very brief period where pacifist was meta. But not all is lost. Feudal society has received a substantial change. It no longer gives you free leader upkeep, which means the overpowered feudal teachers build is now dead and can't hurt you anymore, but it now lets you completely bypass the trust requirement for subjugation. This is not totally free, as there is also a minus 100 penalty for having low trust, but the civic will help you along with plus 25. To note, this also no longer removes the loyalty penalty for having multiple subjects. Instead, it gives you plus 1 subjects before the penalty applies. Shared Destiny now has the same effect, which is a massive nerf and makes it no longer mandatory for every game, and basically never worth picking. You'll now just have to deal with disloyal subjects, but that really doesn't change much and the vassal meta continues, business as normal. Speaking of civics, there are some new ones. Of particular note, I'd like to talk about these two. Sovereign Guardianship has very interesting connotations. This will be a net reduction in empire size unless you go particularly wide. The edict it comes with is not particularly good, influence is pretty important, and this is a very minor buff to trade for it, but I look forward to trying this civic out. Dark Consortium is quite interesting to me because Dark Matter and Dark Matter techs are both very hard to come by. Often I'll end up taking level 5 Become the Crisis just to harvest dark matter to fund the components on ships, which is a bit silly. The dark matter from researchers is actually quite substantial and will help you a ton. The civic requirements are a bit strange. Once you've ran the agenda it gives you, you can no longer remove it, but I think that's fine. And none of this has even touched on the title feature of this DLC, Astral Rifts. One of the devs dropped this not dull cryptic looking flowchart of the rift process, implying there are a lot of branching options in each. We'll have to test them out and find out just how impactful they are. I'll be playing out the new Origin as my first game and video of the patch, so be sure to stick around and hit that subscribe button if you'd like to see that.